somebody on the Cleveland Browns is 100% getting fired, probably by the end of this year. The person who's probably going to end up getting fired is Kevin Stefanski, because I know that he didn't want Shedeur Sanders on the team. It was Andrew Berry who made that pick. You can't really go against your GM. Bad things happen in this situation. But Shedeur Sanders is not without fault for what we saw yesterday. This is the play that we saw yesterday that has the internet just exploding, where Shedeur Sanders took like a 24-yard sack. Half of the internet is saying that
in practice drills, the number one defense can't stop them. People take notice of that, and the more that the players see it, then the comments start happening over the lunch table. They start happening throughout the building, and that's when the pressure really will get severe.
Shedeur, you mentioned, what do they have next year in the draft?
2 first-round draft picks, their own pick and Jacksonville's pick.
It's got to play into it.
With the lowest cab drivers, you couldn't even get on 5th Street. And I'm pissed off, bro, because the play calling was abysmal. Look, even if you don't like Shedeur didn't even get a chance to be trash. Even if you think Shedeur is garbage, he didn't even get a chance to be garbage. That's how awful the offensive line was. Kevin Stefanski still doesn't want to give Shedeur second strings and first strings reps. Why is that? Now, what's more horrible about this game was it was to the point on...
Jason Kelce didn't just throw shade at the Cleveland Browns. He predicted their entire collapse before it even started. And instead of proving him wrong, the Browns front office grabbed a microphone, lit the fuse, and turned a simple comment into a full-blown NFL meltdown. It started with one line, one warning. And what Cleveland did next didn't just confirm every criticism, they made it worse, way worse. Now the team is spiraling, the fan base is divided, and even the media can't stop laughing. All because one retired lineman casually told the truth. And the Browns couldn't handle it. But here's the wild part. Kelce wasn't even trying to stir the pot. He's not chasing contracts. He's not suiting up. He's retired, probably grilling steak and recording a podcast somewhere. Yet somehow he managed to ignite the biggest story in the NFL with just a warning. And Cleveland? They reacted like he burned the city down.
Necessarily trust this coaching staff to develop a quarterback or to evaluate the quarterback position. They've made some really oddball decisions at this position over the last several years, and I don't blame anybody for questioning, do these guys actually know what they're doing?
I don't think that's unfair at all. The thing I would say is that they're desperate.
This isn't just football drama. This is a team unraveling in real time, and every second of it is being broadcast for the world to see. So what did Kelce actually say? Why did it hit so hard? And how did the Browns take a minor critique and turn it into a full-blown public disaster? Let's break it down, because once you see what really happened, you'll understand why this moment might define the entire season. Jason Kelce didn't walk into a press conference swinging. He didn't blast the Browns in some fiery, headline-hungry rant. He did what he always does, spoke honestly, casually, and without an ounce of scripted PR fluff. But what he said? It landed like a depth charge in the middle of Cleveland. In just a few sentences, Kelce warned that something was off in the Browns organization.
Everything is a test when it comes to Shedeur and the Browns. Not just how are you with your teammates, the playbook, all of that, but, they were very upset about the speeding tickets. Obviously, that was a negative. Everything, you're being judged by every little thing, and the fact that he took himself out of practice because his arm is sore. Again, I'm not questioning how hurt he is, but if you're not injured and you do take yourself out.
Not just a single bad call or a weak spot in the depth chart, but a vibe, a sense of dysfunction deeper than any stat sheet could show. And here's the thing, Kelce's not some outside troll trying to stir chaos for clout. This man's a future Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl champion, a leader who's bled for his team and earned the right to speak on football at any level. He's not chasing sponsors or headlines. He's already walked off into the sunset with more wins, respect, and beard oil than most players dream of. So when Jason Kelce drops a warning, it's never random and it's never without weight. He didn't say, "The Browns are cooked." He didn't call for heads to roll. He simply waved a red flag and said, in so many words, "Be careful. Something's not right there." And that's what made it hit harder. It wasn't loud. It was quiet. Almost prophetic. Because Browns fans, especially the long-suffering ones, they felt it. They've been here before. They know what it means when a season starts with optimism and ends in a smoking crater of injuries, firings, and frustration. Kelce just said what millions were already thinking but didn't want to admit out loud. But instead of taking it in stride, maybe even reflecting on it, the Browns' top brass snapped. They didn't listen. They lashed out. And by doing that, they turned Kelce's calm commentary into something more than just a quote. They proved it was a prophecy. And that was just the beginning. The smart move would have been silence. Take the hit, nod politely, and prove Kelce wrong on the field.
Couple days, 3 days until roster cutdowns. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like you belong here on this team?
Obviously, I think overall as a player, I feel like I put in the work. I feel like everything I do, I try to do it to my best, and that's all I ask for. So I feel like everybody feels like they should be on the team. And if you ask anybody on the team, would they feel like they belong? They belong, in their own eyes. So I feel like I do, but I'm my own player. I think about myself in a high regard.
But Cleveland? Oh no, Cleveland did what only Cleveland can do. They took a measured warning and turned it into DEFCON 1. Instead of responding with maturity, the Browns owner exploded like someone just told him his fantasy team got auto-drafted. The energy wasn't strategic, it was emotional, loud, defensive. Like that one uncle who denies the turkey's dry even as everyone's secretly sipping water. He didn't just disagree with Kelce, he meltdowned, went full scorched earth on a take that didn't even attack him directly. And here's where it gets hilarious. In reacting that way, he completely validated what Kelce was saying, because this wasn't about X's and O's. It was about everything else. The culture, the leadership, the emotional fragility coming from the top. The NFL is full of criticism, but you rarely see ownership spiral this publicly over one man's opinion, and a retired man at that. Kelce isn't in camp. He's not facing their defense. He's podcasting in gym shorts, probably sipping a cold drink and laughing as Cleveland combusts under the pressure of a comment he barely remembers making.
What do I want to watch? I want to watch Shedeur Sanders.
Who doesn't want to watch that? The world wants to see him go out there and not only play but have success. At this point, guys are rooting for him. This isn't anything against Dylan. This isn't anything against Joe. I'm just saying the excitement is there for him to go out there. He's going to put eyes on the screen. He is going to bring people to the game. It is what it is, man. I would love to.
Meanwhile, the franchise is scrambling. Emergency pressers, defensive interviews, dramatic statements. They're fighting shadows and roasting the messenger while the real problems still line up across from them every Sunday. The Browns could have quietly locked in. Let their play speak. Used Kelce's words as motivation without saying a word. But no, they grabbed a megaphone and cried foul, as if calling out dysfunction is the dysfunction. Fans didn't have to read between the lines. The overreaction was the story. And now, instead of looking dialed in and focused, the Browns look panicky, desperate. A team more concerned with optics than outcomes.
Cleveland Browns. So they throw Joe Flacco in there, and I like Joe Flacco. He did good, but they gave him the resource of all the first-team guys. Then they throw Dylan Gabriel in there with first teams and second teams. So Dylan always is getting protected. The same thing again, they gave this scrub max protection on every play. Yeah, he completed some passes, but let's talk about his mistakes. He's still inconsistent with his throws, but he at least had max protection.
Kelce didn't knock over the first domino. He just noticed it was leaning. Cleveland? They sprinted in and kicked the whole stack across the room. And the worst part? The football season hasn't even started yet. If you followed the Cleveland Browns for more than 5 minutes, Jason Kelce's warning didn't sound bold. It sounded familiar. Because this isn't the first time someone pointed out the cracks in the foundation. And it sure won't be the last. The Browns have turned dysfunction into an annual tradition like snowy Decembers or blown fourth-quarter leads. New year, new coach, new quarterback. Same exact chaos. It's like reruns of a bad show that somehow keeps getting renewed. Coming up on season 27 of Almost Got It Right, starring yet another locker room full of nervous smiles and broken clipboards. You want examples? Take your pick. Deshaun Watson's contract situation still hovers over the franchise like a fog no one wants to walk through. Kevin Stefanski completely out of sync with his front office. Sources say he didn't even want Shedeur Sanders. Yet, somehow, the team drafted him anyway. Already there's tension. Already the miscommunication is dripping into public view. And speaking of Shedeur, the Browns threw him onto the field like the fourth-string practice QB gave him no protection, no rhythm, no real chance.
Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders in week 1. Kenny Pickett had a hamstring injury. It makes it easy to go with Joe Flacco. And the question isn't and wasn't going to be who's the starter in Cleveland. The question is who's going to be the backup in Cleveland? Who's going to be the number 2 quarterback?
But somehow he's become the scapegoat? Forget bad play calls or protection problems, it's easier to blame the rookie. It's the same script every season. Blame the QB, fire the coach, pretend this one little tweak will fix a decades-long identity crisis. Spoiler, it won't. And that's what Kelce tapped into. Not this year's issues, but the pattern, the cycle. The fact that every time Cleveland gets criticized, they don't learn, they lash out. It's not just a team with messy execution. It's a franchise with chronic denial. They've become the NFL's classic, tell me you have problems without telling me case study. And Kelce didn't expose them. He just said it out loud. But here's the kicker. Browns fans know. They've lived it. Fumbles in the red zone, quarterbacks vanishing mid-season, entire campaigns derailed because someone exploded over a harmless comment. This is why his warning hit harder than any headline. Because he didn't break the news, they've just been ignoring it for years. You know how the internet acts when it smells drama? Like sharks in the water, one drop, and it's feeding time. So the moment Cleveland clapped back at Jason Kelce, the reaction wasn't quiet. It was chaos. Clips started flying across TikTok like wildfire. Sports pages on Instagram turned it into an overnight meme. Even late-night talk show hosts were cracking jokes about it because of course they were. Jason Kelce didn't just speak truth, he dropped a viral grenade into the middle of an already unstable franchise, and then casually walked away. Fans split instantly. Half of Browns Nation was like, okay, but he's not wrong. The other half, foaming at the mouth, ready to burn down every podcast studio in America. And Kelce? He didn't even flinch. One moment, he's a retired center with a strong opinion. Next thing you know, he's trending in multiple states. His beard has become a reaction, GIF, and every sports show is opening with, let's talk about this Kelce Browns mess. It wasn't just a football moment, it became content. And of course, the media gobbled it up like it was Super Bowl Sunday. Hot takes, debates, slow-mo footage of Kelce calling things out over sad B-roll of fumbled passes and confused sideline faces. Pittsburgh fans? Cheering. Philly fans? Rolling up with popcorn like it's a family reunion. Even neutral fans were tuning in just to watch Cleveland unravel in public for free. Because you have to understand something. There's drama. And then there's Cleveland drama. And that always hits different. Most teams would have issued a 2-line statement, played the no comment card, and focused on football. But Cleveland, with the lights flashing and the internet watching, threw gasoline into the fire. And Kelce didn't have to say another word. The Browns made sure he didn't need to. Their overreaction said everything. And as the memes piled up, fans from coast to coast saw the story for what it really was. This wasn't about disrespect. It was about a team so allergic to criticism, they started a multi-week media frenzy trying to prove they weren't dysfunctional, only to prove exactly that. And now, they've handed the internet the one thing it loves even more than football: receipts. At this point, the smart play would have been to back off. Let the chaos blow over, regroup quietly, and maybe, just maybe, get back to, football. But the Browns? Nah. They looked at the fire and tossed in a fireworks stand. Instead of letting Kelce's comment fade into the background, Cleveland doubled down. More statements, more media appearances, more hurt feelings disguised as leadership. Front office insiders started leaking. The coaching staff got defensive. And somewhere in the storm, players were being asked about tweets instead of touchdowns. It became clear this wasn't just about Kelce anymore. It was about damage control from a team that never had control in the first place. And here's the worst part. The Browns didn't just mishandle the message. They mishandled the moment. While other teams were dialing in for preseason, Cleveland was holding an emotional press tour. The kind where every sentence starts with, "People don't understand what we're building here," and ends with a 3-14 season. Even the quarterback situation added fuel to the meltdown. Reports surfaced that Kevin Stefanski didn't want Shedeur Sanders, but the front office drafted him anyway. Then, instead of protecting the rookie or integrating him slowly, they dropped him behind a paper-thin O-line with third-string weapons and said, "Good luck." Meanwhile, other QBs were getting first-team reps, max protection, and all the support. But Shedeur? Nah, he was set up to fail, and the internet noticed. The inconsistency, the favoritism, the excuses. It all screamed the one thing Kelce warned about: dysfunction under pressure. And just when you thought they'd learned their lesson, the Browns went louder. One executive called Kelce out of line. The owner allegedly aired his frustration across multiple internal meetings. Fans were left wondering, is this really where the team's energy needs to be right now? Instead of building chemistry, Cleveland built a media wall. Instead of staying focused, they chased smoke and ran straight into a blaze of their own creation. Jason Kelce might have lit the match, but Cleveland brought the gasoline, the wind, and a truckload of fireworks. And now, they've handed the league a ready-made disaster story before the season has even kicked off. This never was just about football. It never was just about Jason Kelce, Shedeur Sanders, or a fourth-string preseason snap. This is bigger because what happened with the Browns didn't expose a bad playbook. It exposed a broken culture. Think about what actually happened. A retired player made a fair, almost casual observation about a team that struggled for decades. He didn't insult anyone personally. He didn't take cheap shots. He simply called out the tension, the questionable leadership, and the history that can't seem to stop repeating itself in Cleveland. Instead of calmly acknowledging the critique, letting it fade, or here's a wild idea proving him wrong on the field, the Browns lashed out. It wasn't just emotional, it was panicked. And that panic tells you everything, because strong organizations don't blow up over commentary. They let results do the talking. The Steelers wouldn't throw a tantrum. The Chiefs wouldn't hold an emergency meeting. Even the Eagles would have laughed and moved on. The Browns? They went full tabloid spiral. Why? Because deep down, they know Kelce struck nerve one. They've been patching over with slogans, coaching hires, and preseason hype for years. This isn't just about one play or one draft pick. This is about an organization so focused on managing perception, it forgot how to manage performance. And every time they overreact, they reinforce the thing they're trying to deny. They don't look tough. They look insecure. They don't look loyal. They look lost. They're arguing with a guy holding a microphone on his days off from fatherhood and podcasting. Meanwhile, they've got a full locker room gearing up for a brutal AFC North schedule. And this is what they're worried about? It's deeper than a bad week. It's systemic. And that's why this moment matters more than it seems. Because this response, this meltdown, this spiral, it's not happening in isolation. It's happening with fresh draft picks in the building. It's happening while position battles are still unsettled. It's happening 3 days before roster cuts, and leadership is busy arguing with ghosts in the media. That sends a message to the fans, to the players, to the entire league. And the message is clear. This franchise still doesn't know who it is. Winning teams don't explain. They show up. They execute. They shut everyone up by dominating, not by dropping fiery quotes in post-practice scrums. The Browns had a chance to rise above the noise. Instead, they turned a flashlight into a spotlight, pointed it at themselves, and revealed just how fragile things still are in Cleveland. And, like always, the timing couldn't be worse. Now here's the part that really stings for Cleveland. Because as messy, dramatic, and strangely entertaining as this meltdown has been, none of it actually counted. Not a single game has been played. No wins, no losses. Zero scoreboard to answer for yet. This entire spiral? It's happening in the preseason. And that's what makes this so dangerous for the Browns. Because when the fireworks are over and the press stops spinning, the one thing that matters most will finally arrive. The games. And guess what? They don't care about your press statements. They don't care how offended you were by a podcast. They don't care who got the most media sympathy or which coach delivered the most passionate "we've got this" speech. The only thing that matters is performance. Now the Browns have completely reshaped the lens the world will be watching through. Every snap, every sideline shot, every locker room rumor, all of it will be seen next to one name: Jason Kelce. Because whether they like it or not, Kelce has become the measuring stick for their season. Every reminder of dysfunction, every hint of internal chaos, every interception or locker room dust-up, it's all going to echo one phrase: "He told you so." Let a wide receiver drop a third down pass in week 1? Kelce warned you. Let a quarterback sneak miss by half a yard? Looks like dysfunction. Let a coach call a timeout at the worst possible moment? Boom, back to the prophecy. This is what happens when you make a spectacle out of a whisper. It's not just a soundbite anymore, it's a template. And now, whether the team wins or loses, that narrative is going to hover over them, constantly daring the Browns to prove they're not what Kelce said they are. Emotional, chaotic, and allergic to accountability. Here's the other problem. What if he was absolutely right? What if the cracks are already there? What if that tension between Stefanski and the front office does turn toxic? What if Shedeur Sanders starts to unravel behind the same broken O-line that's shredded QBs in seasons past? It's not just about proving a critic wrong anymore. It's about saving face for millions who are now paying attention, some for the first time, some who've been burned too many times before. The Browns don't just need to win games this year. They need to win back their identity. Because thanks to one blunt comment and a franchise that couldn't handle the heat, the spotlight's on, the pressure's growing, and now there's one question left. Can Cleveland shut up the noise? Or are they exactly who Jason Kelce says they are? Jason Kelce didn't launch a war. He didn't shout, insult, or tear down a team on national TV. He just spoke one simple truth, and Cleveland took that truth sharp, uncomfortable, but honest, and turned it into a rolling disaster. But here's where the story flips. Because this isn't just on the Browns anymore. This moment, it's going to live across every game they play this season. Every decision, every snap, every press conference. It's not just a battle for wins now, it's a battle for credibility. The Browns didn't just respond to a warning. They amplified it, made it louder, brighter, unavoidable. And when the real season kicks off, that spotlight won't fade. Not until they prove everyone, including Jason Kelce, dead wrong. But here's the hard truth. They've had that chance before. They've had years to rewrite the narrative. New drafts, new coaches, fresh quarterbacks. And every single time, when the pressure kicks in, Cleveland collapses under its own expectations. Every time. That's why people believed Kelce in the first place. Not because he's famous, but because we've seen this movie before. The Browns don't need another comeback, quote. They need a quiet one. One that happens on Sunday afternoons. Not during interviews, not on Twitter, not in damage control meetings, but on the field. That's where the truth lives. And until Cleveland starts stacking wins instead of excuses, this moment, this overreaction, this meltdown, this proof of their own chaos, it's going to follow them. Because Kelce didn't destroy them. They walked into the fire themselves and lit the match. So yeah, he might be retired. He might be podcasting in flip-flops. He might be laughing into a beer as the Browns scramble to gain control of their own narrative. But in the end, it doesn't matter if Jason Kelce meant to shake the room. He already did, and the reverberations are still echoing around the league. So the only question left is this. Will the Browns finally shut up the critics? Or do what they always do, prove them right? Because the prophecy's been spoken, and the whole NFL is watching to see if Cleveland can break the curse, or fall back into the chaos they just can't seem to escape.